Hey there, thanks so much for joining me. And I do see some people in the call today. So if you're here, Shubhas, thanks for joining me. If there are others out there, please you feel free to just leave questions and comments in the discussion. I encourage that very much, and I do follow up with them at the end of the lesson. So today what I'm covering is a feature that for me at least was relatively unknown until recently. But I was trying to find a solution to this issue where over time, with each project and score that I do in Dorico, it's typical that I'll make adjustments that are often adjustments I want to preserve in perpetuity. So I may decide there's a better font for my chord symbols, or I may decide that there's better spacing for the layout, or I may come up with a new ensemble that I intend to use in the future. All of these are examples of things that, from project to project, anybody who's used Dorico for a long time will acknowledge that there's not been a lot of consistency in terms of opening up another project and just having an extremely straightforward way to make sure that everything is working the way that it was in your last project, right? Now, this feature's been around since Dorico 4, so I'm a little bit late to the game, but I haven't heard a lot of chat about it, and so I'm assuming that there's a lot of people who also, like me, would find this extremely useful. It's called the Library Manager. It is under the Library menu in Dorico, and what it essentially allows you to do is to load up either, well, it allows you to compare all the settings in your project. Settings, so we're talking about playback options, we're talking about layout options, engraving options, and so on. But also things like kits, expression maps, percussion kits, annotations, different ensembles, custom ensembles you may have created in the setup mode, playing techniques, playback techniques, things that over time we accumulate as Dorico users. We add those new playing or playback techniques for our new libraries as we incorporate them into our template. And then we go back and maybe open up another project from 5 months ago when we didn't have that library. And we would really like to have those playing or playback techniques available so that we could just load our playback template and hear our old composition through the new library, for example. This is so much easier with the Library Manager than with any other setup. And in my view, it actually diminishes somewhat the need to always manage that template file, which for me was getting a bit onerous. I had too many different templates for too many specific purposes, and I was actually having a hard time keeping track in my mind of which template was for which. This makes it so that I can just kind of go into any old project or any new project, and I can cherry pick the things about that project that I want to preserve in my current project. The Library Manager makes that all very easy. So let's check out in an actual project. So I've got something here. This is a fairly common example of the kind of stuff that I'm writing. It's typically orchestral, and I'm going to have some percussion. I'm going to have some pitched percussion, full winds, full brass, full strings, and I'm going to come into this project maybe realizing that I would like to hear it through a new library that has sul ponticello and sul tasto, and maybe has some more advanced flutter techniques in the winds or trills that I've got in a new library. But this piece I had written, let's just hypothetically say I wrote this 6 months ago, and I didn't have those libraries. I had a more basic library at that time. So I want to bring in playback and playing techniques from a newer project with my newer library that I've done. Sounded great. I was really happy with it. But I'm going back to this project hypothetically because I really liked the melodies. I really liked the harmonies that I had. And I want to hear what it would sound like if I plugged it through my new playback template. So let's say in this hypothetical situation, I load up my playback template. It's very likely that some of the playing and playback techniques, along with percussion maps, expression maps, and even percussion kits, just aren't going to be there in this project. So some of that stuff might import technically, but it may not import operationally. And this is the kind of thing that we can use the Library Manager for. So we're going to go up into the Library menu here, And we're going to go down to the library manager in the library menu. Very self-explanatory. And it opens up this window, which to my mind, I'm going to take a moment and giggle about how Steinberg is. This is great. It's all laid out. It's very clear as long as you're an engineer. This is not something that is particularly artistically presented, but extremely functional. And that's, I think, where Steinberg really sits. Their software is extremely functional, and it's filled with options, and this is just one of them. So what are we looking at here? Well, anytime you see this red not equal sign, that means there's something that's not the same in the project that's open compared to what? So in my case, compared to this hypothetical project I have, which is notably called Greatest Score Ever, but I could also compare it to whatever the factory settings are. So I could see, well, what's different in this project compared to factory defaults? What's different compared to a user library? What does that mean? Well, if you wanted to share this, if you were collaborating with another composer and you had, let's say, actually a more realistic example is not so much collaboration, but let's say that you're a composer, you've got a job, you work with an ensemble for live recording, and you've already determined the fonts, the way your brackets and braces are oriented, whether or not staff labels are abbreviated or not, which staff labels are there. There's all sorts of settings in your score, and you have to present it that way to the conductor and your ensemble for recording. But you need to outsource some of the orchestration, so you outsource it to your friendly composer buddy, and you want to make sure that when they give you back the score that they're working on, you don't have to spend a lot of time incorporating all of your settings for the conductor and ensemble. So you could go up to the library menu here, and you can come down to Export Library. And what that's going to do is it's going to export what Dorico calls a library file, and that library file is going to contain all your settings, things like expression maps, kits, percussion maps, fonts, playing, playback techniques, all sorts of stuff. And then the composer or orchestrator that you're outsourcing to, they could import this into their project, and it's all right there. And they would do it like this. They would go to the library menu, come down to Library Manager, and this could be on any project, can contain music, or it could be a blank project. And they're going to load up a user library here, and they can just click on this button to navigate to find the file that they got from you. They can load it up, and they can see all the things that are different, all the different layout options, different engraving options, different notation options, and so on and so forth. They can see the extent to which your file is different from theirs. Likewise, you can look at one of your newer projects, right? So let's say that you have a new project, like I was saying earlier, you've got this fantastic new library with all these new playing techniques, and you spent the whole weekend, last weekend, setting up all these playing techniques. Now you want to go back and apply them to a melody and harmony that you had written 6 months ago. You can open up that project from 6 months ago, come in here, load up the Dorico project of your most recent production where you have all this advanced library set up, and then you can see what's new, what's old, which ensembles don't exist in my current project that did exist back then, or does exist in my newer sort of newfangled project. Font styles, expression maps, look at all this stuff. It's amazing. Ornaments, note head sets, percussion kits, percussion maps. The playback and playing techniques are huge. And even little settings like, does your glissando have a delayed start or not? Things like that aren't hard to go and change, but it's annoying when, I do not want a delay start on my glissandos. I don't know why that's the default setting. It is. But anyway, you choose what you want. You can go in here one by one, and you can fix them. So you can go in on a kind of per basis. Let's say we go to playing techniques, and I see that I've got these right here. I can just click this button, and just like that, my spiccato settings are going to be synced. Now they're synced. So the library manager gives you this amazing capacity to just cherry pick what you like from different projects, even to the point where you could start a new template. You could open that template up, nothing in it, right? Open up the newest project that has your fancy newfangled library in it, import all the playing techniques. And then you remember, 4 months ago, I was doing a bunch of drumline stuff for that percussion group, and I had all of my percussion set up in there. I'm going to go and grab my kits and my percussion maps from that. Now you go and open that, you import that in. And then you think to yourself, when I was doing some orchestral work for the local playhouse a year and a half ago, I had all of these amazing ensembles that made my work so much faster, grouping different ensembles together for, ethnic purposes, sort of era-related purposes, whatever. Go back to them, pull in those ensembles, and now you have a file that's got your best percussion maps and kits, along with your favorite ensembles, along with whatever the most modern settings are, along with the expression maps and playing techniques for your newest libraries, then save that as a template. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to manage exactly what's in there, cherry pick what you want, and then ultimately have something reliable, reusable, and consistent from project to project. And if you're ever wondering, well, where the heck are my fonts? What happened to that font? You just open up the library manager, go to a project that has that font in it, sync that one feature up, you're done. You're ready to go, and you're back to work. So library manager, very, very helpful, really very good friend. If you want to share this information with other people, you can just export your own library file. It's really fantastic. So, hey there. Good morning. Good morning, Jill and Rich. Nice to have you here. Thanks a lot for joining me today. If you guys have any questions, I've got to rush here because I've got an appointment at noon my time. But if you have questions, post them in the comments. I think this is pretty self-explanatory, and I hope it opens up new possibilities for everybody watching this. If you're watching this after the fact and you're not a member or a subscriber of my channel, please do like and subscribe to the video if you found it helpful. And thanks everybody for showing up that did show up today. I see a number of people on there with me, and I'm always grateful that people are here to follow along with me. So thanks so much. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week and weekend. Make use of the library manager. It's going to make your life a lot easier. And I will say for Dorico 6 users, I don't yet have Dorico 6, but there are some even more extended features to the library manager worth looking into if you are using Dorico 6. With that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks again, everybody, and I will see you next week, Tuesday and Thursday. And that's it for me.